Butch again, introducing Butch Smith to help us learn more about why move from RMS over to RMHero. Take it away.
All right. Hi. Thanks, everybody. So thank you and welcome to our webinar on 10 reasons that RMH is better than RMS. And what I know, we all loved RMS. RMS has been a staple of our retail solution at BMI for a very long time, and for me personally, RMS has been the predominant software that I've worked within for about the last 12 or 13 years. So making the transition into a product like Retail Management Hero can seem a little daunting, but what I wanted to tell you today is what are some of the things that Retail Management Hero is doing much better than they did inside of the RMS product. So today's goal is to introduce 10 differences between RMS and RMH and why you should switch. So how I have this laid out is some introduction information, and then briefly touch on RMS End of Life again. You guys may have been hammered with this information over the past year or so, but in case you didn't know, I'll give you some information on RMS End of Life. An overview of the Retail Realm and Retail Hero companies that came together to develop the Retail Management Hero product, go into some of the differences, and then I'll show you those differences inside of a live Retail Management Hero environment. I'd like to show this slide on why you should choose InterDyn BMI as your partner in working within the retail space, and that is we have a long history of working in retail. We have a lot of experience and we have a lot of resources available to help you navigate some of the changes that are going on in terms of PCI compliance and the EMV chip cards, and there's a lot of exciting new technologies that are coming out, and we're well suited to help you transition into those new changes. So Retail Management Hero is one of the products that BMI offers, and it's the primary product that we're looking at, especially for single store RMS customers and anybody who's looking for a single store type solution. We also offer a ChargeLogic product that's built into the NAV ERP accounting package, and we have Retail Realm Essentials, which is powered by Microsoft Dynamics AX, and we also offer the full AX suite of retail. AX for Retail is Microsoft's flagship retail ERP solution, and Retail Realm Essentials is a scaled down licensing version of that is just the retail point of sale functionality. So if you don't need all of the advanced accounting and distribution and marketing that goes into a full AX solution, Retail Realm Essentials is a very good choice to look at. So RMS is coming to its end of life. Right now, RMS and headquarters can no longer be sold to new customers after July of last year. So we're fully into what's referred to as an extended support phase. And what that means is existing customers current on maintenance can continue to purchase RMS licenses after 2016, but mainstream support for the entire product ended in July of 2016, and extended support will end in July of 2021. So if you're current with your maintenance and you need to add a lane to your store, you can definitely do that. But if you're a brand new customer and you're not looking for just to add a lane, then you cannot purchase the RMS product. You would need to move into the RMH product. So RMH for existing customers, all customers currently on a Microsoft enhancement plan will be able to transition to RMH at no additional licensing costs. If you're transitioning to RMH, you will need to buy 12 additional months of support and enhancement for the RMH product, but that support and enhancement will be added to your existing maintenance time. So if you have 6 months left on your RMS maintenance and you make a transition to RMH and you buy the 12 months, you'll have a total of 18 months worth of RMH maintenance. If you're not current with your Microsoft enhancement plan, then you'll need to buy 12 months of RMH maintenance plus $250 per terminal so that you can become up to date with RMH. And there is one slight change excuse me, in the licensing, and that is the manager piece inside of RMH is now licensed and requires a license for each manager installation. And so those, if you need to purchase them, additional licenses are $400 a piece, and then there is the maintenance on top of that. But if you work with any of our account executives, we can get an exact pricing for making that transition. So I'm going to jump right in, and here are the first 5 things that RMH does better than RMS. The first and biggest in my mind, and this stems from a lot of the changes that have come around in terms of PCI compliance and the new chip card processing, is that the customer information security, that's credit card information, that's the data that's actually on a mag stripe, that's the card number, expiration date, PIN numbers, all of that, that is integrated into the RMH solution for EMV and makes PCI compliance significantly easier. That's one of the biggest changes. One of the next biggest is the customizable POS screen and the robust API for plugin development. RMH was architected in such a way to make it very simple for either third-party developers, or if you have an in-house IT staff who's familiar with XML or HTML files, they can make a lot of modifications to the software that you just weren't able to do inside of RMS. RMS was a closed architecture. It had this sort of antiquated idea of hooks and how you could hook in at certain places, but it was not extensible in any real measurable way, but the Retail Management Hero product definitely is. Another one of the big changes is a standalone stock take application. It can be installed on multiple machines, it has better handheld integration, and it just handles importing data that you may have collected for taking physical inventories in a third-party manner. It'll import that significantly easier than the RMS product did. It has a built-in loyalty. RMH is an on-premises, that looks like that got held over from a previous slide, but it has a built-in loyalty program, and it's based on the Hero points and the Hero loyalty program. It also has advanced accounts receivable functionality. It has separate customer and billing accounts, and it has account groups for easy administration in the way that that RMS didn't. And so what the plan for the webinar here is, I'm going to list these and go through them, and then I'm going to jump into a demo environment and actually show you where those differences are inside the actual software. So the 5 more of the things that are different is advanced merchandising. The Retail Management Hero product can do invoice matching and do purchase order tracking in ways that RMS couldn't. It now has role-based security. I know that was something that had been asked for a lot of times by my customers in the RMS space. And that is, if you've got 40 or 50 temps that come in, or you've got a lot of turnover inside of your store, setting each one up and having to go in and click each of the boxes for every cashier that you set up was kind of a pain. And so we'd get creative, and we could do things with the security levels and things like that, but it's handled significantly better in the Retail Management Hero product. They've also added the ability to have manager roles inside of the manager application. So where RMS was, if you had access to manager, you had access to just about everything. RMH allows you to define what somebody with that manager role has access to. And then wizards. There are a lot of wizards in RMH, and the thing about the wizards that is really good is it lets you en masse change data. It lets you update data in significantly more ways than RMS ever did. I know this one may seem minor to a lot, but I get asked probably 80 or 90% of the time I was discussing RMS with somebody, is that RMH has a built-in cash register timeout, so that we can set it to say if there's no activity for 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever time frame you want to define, that it'll go ahead and lock itself. And then automation and settings defaults. There's a lot of defaults that you can identify and set up inside of the Retail Management Hero product that will allow you to facilitate a lot of the tasks that you do much easier. So that's the overview of the changes that are in place. The biggest one, and I want to stress this one here, is that in 2017 there are new PCI DSS requirements. So acquirers, and that is your credit card processor, they must ensure level 4 merchants annually validate PCI DSS compliance or participate in the Technology Innovation Program. What that means is beginning in January 31st of this year, so the January 20 or the 2017 requirements for PCI DSS compliance has been lowered to level 4 merchants. And level 4 merchants are anybody who processes under 1 million transactions in a year. So that pretty much means anybody who is taking credit cards at their POS terminal need to meet a new set of requirements when it comes to the PCI DSS standards. And Visa has come up with a program called TIP, and the TIP program lets you become PCI DSS certified so long as you meet these 2 criteria. The first is you confirm the sensitive authentication data and the full contents of the mag stripe and that kind of stuff are not stored after the transaction. And then you also need to ensure that at least 75% of all transactions originate through either EMV chip reading terminals or a validated point-to-point encryption solution. Retail Management Hero is structured and it's integrated in such a way that if you're processing credit cards through RMH, you will be able to meet these requirements. With RMS, you could still just use the little $60 mag stripe reader that attaches to your either keyboard or onto the side of your monitor. With Retail Management Hero, if you're going to use an integrated solution, the integrated solution will be EMV and point-to-point encrypted so that you'll meet these new requirements for the PCI DSS side. So at this point, I'm going to jump over to a live demo and walk through where each of those changes are inside of the Retail Management Hero product.
And again, while we are doing this, on the right-hand side, if you have questions that you would like to have Butch address at the end of today's presentation, go ahead and type those into the question area and then we'll get them addressed at the end.
All right, so if you guys can see my screen right now, what you're looking at is you're looking at the POS login screen. And this is what Retail Management Hero is going to look like. And as you can see, it has a similar look and feel to the RMS product. However, this screen is heavily customizable. And what that means is inside of the manager piece, and I'll jump over to the manager piece to show you where that is. Inside of the manager piece, we can go into very specific and we can control what's showing on the POS side. So here are the custom POS buttons that we have set up. They're similar to the custom POS buttons inside of the RMS side, but there is documentation on literally hundreds of different ways that you can create custom POS buttons. Whereas in the RMS product, you were limited to a very small number without getting into a developer creating a custom DLL and installing that inside of your application and then you being able to call those DLLs. Inside of the Retail Management Hero product, they've built in many custom buttons that you can use to do just about anything that you would need to do from a POS perspective. And then the second aspect of the ability to customize the POS is if you see right here, there's different panels, and these panels can each be customized, and they can be customized pretty simply. So what I'm going to do is show you how easy I could take this custom commands button on the right hand side here and make it 2 rows instead of, or 2 columns instead of 1 column. So I'm going to exit the POS, and I'm just going to go into what's called a XAML file. And I'm going to rename a XAML file that I've already created. And then at that point, I'm going to relaunch the POS. And now I've got 2 columns going in the right-hand side rather than a single column. And in order to make changes like that inside of RMS, you would have had to redesign the entire screen as a whole, and you would have some kind of an overlay that would get called or something like that. Inside, or with the Retail Management Hero product, you can actually modify what the POS screen itself looks like. Now that's if you want to modify sort of at the code level and if you're okay with the XML. You can also make modifications to the POS screen right from here. So if I wanted to, I can change the size of how the screen looks. I can also change between different themes. Right now I'm using what's called the light theme. I can switch to the dark theme. I'm going to switch back to the light theme. And then you also have control over the font sizes. So I can scroll up and make everything on the screen just a little bit bigger. But if you've got some teenagers with great eyesight working for you, they can scroll all the way down and end up with more screen space for the wording, or you can scroll back up and make it easier to read. So those are just a couple of the examples of the customizations that Retail Management Hero has built into it that were not available inside the RMS product. The next thing that I want to showcase is the standalone stock take application. And I use the term standalone only that you don't launch it from within the POS application like you did with the RMS stock take application, if you want to refer to it as that, or the physical inventory interface. And so it has a lot of the same features that you expected from the RMS side, but it has better integration with handheld devices and being able to import handheld device data as opposed to just creating a CSV file. And it also gives you the opportunity to install just this application on a laptop and walk around with a scanner and take your inventories and things like that. So the standalone stock take application is a significant improvement over how RMS handled taking of physical inventories. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. One of the other enhancements that they've made inside of the Retail Management Hero product is a built-in loyalty manager. And again, this gives you a separate interface to get into the loyalty manager. It doesn't have to be installed if you're not using it. So you don't have extra stuff that you're not using just installed for no reason. And it's based on the hero points and is a very robust loyalty program where you can set up different types of discounts and you can set up different types of customer groups who will accrue points based on things that they're doing at the POS. So this particular program is a bike rewards program where somebody can get X number of points if they buy things out of the bike supplies category. And then for every 1,000 points they get, they can get 10% off of either an individual purchase or depending upon how you want to set up, there are many different ways to set up the loyalty program, which is something that the RMH product relied on third-party applications for. Now, one of the bigger changes that they've made between Retail Management Hero and the RMS product is surrounding how customers and AR works. So inside of Retail Management Hero, we have the concept of customers, the same as we did inside of RMS, but now we've added a layer above the customer that's called an account. And you can set up an account as the billing information for your customers, and then you can have multiple customers attached to that account. So if you're selling business to business, or if you've got a wholesale side of things, and you have an account with another business, they could set up 3 or 4 employees who are authorized to come into the your store and purchase, and have all of the billing go directly to their AR. Or I'm sorry, to their accounting office. One of the more interesting mechanisms that I've seen this set up as is there's a place that allows you to purchase on account, and they have families come in. So me as a father, I could set up a billing account for me, and I could set up myself, but I could also set up my son and my daughter as customers so that they would be able to come in and purchase on account as well, and then all of the billing would come to me. And so that's one of the major changes in how the accounts are set up, and how billing can happen if you're going to allow your customers to buy on account. So the next area that is really a fundamental change between Retail Management Hero and the RMS product is in the inventory and purchasing side. I'm going to go ahead and make one quick change right here so that we make this just a little bit bigger. When it comes to purchase orders, and what Retail Management Hero can do is it can actually track and do invoice matching against your purchase orders. And this was something that you could never do inside of RMS. RMS didn't provide separate receiving documentation. It just allowed you to go into a purchase order and update the quantities that you received, but it didn't give you a solid paper trail in terms of, I got 10 today, but I didn't get the next 10 out of the 20 that I ordered until tomorrow. If you went to look at what happened 2 weeks ago, it wasn't real clear exactly when you received a particular document. And there was definitely no invoice matching involved in or invoice tracking, for that matter, inside of the RMS product. So we can set up suppliers just like you could inside of RMS, and we could create purchase orders very similar to what you did inside of RMS. There's also a new feature called Purchase Order Requisition, where we can go in and have the system suggest to us what purchase orders are going to be made, and then we would go in and make decisions on that, make modifications, and then we could complete and finish those purchase orders. And then there's a separate section on actually receiving the purchase orders, where you can track the documentation that you're receiving with, whether it's a packing list and it may have its own tracking number on it, or you can generate a tracking number for that particular packing list. And then when you get an invoice, you can go into Retail Management Hero and you can tell it about this invoice, and you can tell it about which items were on that invoice, and you can match those invoice amounts to your actual purchase orders. And then it also gives you the ability to go in and update the costs on those purchase orders. That has always been one of the drawbacks of the RMS product is that if costs had changed after you received your purchase order, you really didn't have any mechanism to go in and make sure those costs, if you were using an average cost system inside of RMS, were updated properly. But with the Retail Management Hero product, you would definitely be able to go in and do cost adjustments using the invoice, or you can update open and released order costs as well after you've created the purchase order, so that way when things get received, they'll get received with the correct cost. So then one of the other areas that is significantly different than how it was inside of the RMS product is we now have the ability to create roles. And you'll see that the roles themselves look very similar to what you're used to. in that we've got different tasks or rights that a cashier or somebody given this role is allowed to do. We can set limits for them. We've got the same types of access that you had inside of RMS, so that should be very similar or familiar to you. But you can set up a cashier role and a manager role and an owner role, and then you can actually assign those roles to the individual users. So inside of this particular cashier named Bob Smith, I've given him the user role of cashier, and he has the manager role of cashier as well. But if we look at the administrator, I didn't assign him a POS role, but I can assign him the POS role of owner or administrator very easily, and I can assign him the manager role of owner or full access, which is one of the default roles in there. So now our administrator, when they log into the manager system, will have access to everything that the administrator should have access to, and if they log into the POS, they'll have those access. The POS user roles were based on the security as it was inside of RMS. The manager user roles is something completely brand new. So if we go look inside of the manager role, we can see here are all the different privileges available to us. Do they have access to manage configuration? I could take that away or grant that to them. If I don't want them to look at schedules or anything to do with an advanced item wizard or a label wizard, I can take those features away or grant access to those features on a feature by feature basis, rather than how RMS just gives you access to everything once you're able to log into the manager piece. So those are the role-based securities that you're able to access inside of the RMS system. And I'm going to jump over to this, back to the POS screen, because if you'll notice, I've got a login screen that came up right here. I didn't log out when we had switched away from it, but it automatically logged me out. And the reason that it did that is I have set up a role for our POS system, and inside of that role for our POS system, I told it, if we're idle for 300 seconds, I want to go ahead and log off. We can also set things like the maximum number of returned rows in a query. We can enable line item defaults. And so these POS profiles can be attached to the individual POS registers. And so what that could allow you to do is if you've got a register at the front that people walk away from a lot, you can assign them a role where it'll automatically time out after 5 minutes. But if you've got a POS that's sitting in the back that doesn't have a cash drawer attached to it, let's say, or anything like that, so locking the system isn't as important, or you want to have a longer time than 5 minutes, you could set it for 2 hours, then you could assign different roles to each of those registers so that the lockout timeout is different. It's not just a static lockout across all of the registers. So again, that feeds into, you can heavily customize RMH in ways that you weren't able to inside of the RMS product. One of the other major enhancements is the wizards. There are wizards all over the place inside of RMH. They were kind of hidden and buried inside of RMS. I was actually working with a customer earlier this week who didn't know that some of the item wizards were there, and they've been using the RMS product for over 8 years. And they just had never clicked up into the menu to get to the wizards, so they weren't real sure. Yeah, they didn't know how any of those wizards worked. So we've got advanced wizards inside of the Retail Management Hero product. And so we've got an advanced item wizard where we can look at all of our items. So here's all of the items that we have in our database, and here are the areas via this wizard that we can just go in and change. So it's kind of like an Excel interface right here on the main screen, where we can go in on any of these fields that we have access to and update en masse lots of different items. This was something that was not easily accomplished inside of the RMS product, and many people had various different plugins and third-party applications that would allow them to do this through an Excel type interface. And so this item wizard lets you go in here and make changes, update prices, reset reorder numbers, update supplier cost information. There is just a ton of things that you can update through the advanced item wizard. There's also an item creation wizard, and item creation wizard lets you walk through new item creations, and it can do it through an automated sort of process, and you can see that we can assign sort of special characters to different fields. So as you're walking through a new item, and if you're creating lots of new items at a time, you get 150 or 200 items that you're creating at one time, you can automate a lot of the item creation process, and it'll allow you to then rapidly add new items into the system without having to retype a lot of the same information over and over again. I'm sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. And then along the same lines of how the wizards work and what's going on with the wizards is there's automation settings and default settings for things like order creation and order settings as well. So if we're looking inside of if we go to setup and we go to inventory and purchasing, we can set up some default order settings so that when we're creating purchase orders and we're doing things in there, we can have it automatically place the purchase order when we're done. We can tell it how to sort purchase order entries, and we can sort of set these defaults for purchase orders in such a way that it'll significantly reduce the amount of time that it takes for purchase order creation as well. Along with the purchase orders being able to make adjustments to you, it can cut down on the time of having to pick a supplier and then just sitting there keying in the items one by one with their quantities. So those are the 10 major changes between RMS and the RMH product. Do we have any questions at this point?
Okay, everybody. So on the right-hand side, type in any questions that you'd like to ask Butch. There are no questions in the queue right at the moment. I guess one thing that'd be kind of fun to step back and say, like, all right, I know now I need to change and all. Can you talk about the day in the life of what you have done so far with customers that have moved from RMS to the Hero, just for us to understand one more time?
Yeah, the process for the conversion is actually quite simple. The Retail Management Hero product can install over an existing RMS database. And so what that means is it's quite simple to evaluate the RMH product and get really comfortable with it using your own data without having to export it into any type of a file and try and scrub it and decide this now needs to go into this other field when you're moving between two systems. So the conversion process is really just a matter of installing the Retail Management Hero product, pointing it at your existing RMS database, and then running through a conversion that makes that RMS database a valid RMH database. Now the one caveat to that is you can't use both RMS and RMH pointing to the same database at the same time. There are changes that they had to make to the database in terms of how security works and how you log in and how passwords get hashed. So the RMH product can't read a Microsoft password, and a Microsoft product, can't read the RMH password. So that's why once you make that conversion, you're on to the RMH side. So what we've been doing with a lot of our customers is having them run the two systems for a little bit side by side, so they can get familiar with the new interface and they can look at some of the new features that are here that will allow them to then make decisions about how they want to use the new features of the RMH product. A couple of our customers realized as they were going through this process that they needed to sort of clean out, if you will, their existing RMS database. So they're taking the time to look at the two systems side by side and clean out products that somebody went a little overzealous and imported 100,000 items from a catalog when in fact they only order 40 different items from that supplier, and so now they've got 200,000 or 300,000 items in their RMS database, and they'll take the time to go in and clean some of that or to purge some customer data once they realize the new features of RMH and how they would use those.
Excellent. Now, of course, we got to remember that we invited our RMS customers, and not everybody is using Dynamics for their accounting system. I've got a customer here that asked about QuickBooks. Does it integrate with QuickBooks?
It doesn't have a integration into QuickBooks and where it will automatically push, but we can export and import into QuickBooks. I know that the integration, especially QuickBooks or Great Plains, those questions come up quite a bit, and with the open framework and the openness of the database, since it still is an RMS database, we're expecting that at some point this year we'll have third-party integrations that allow for integrations into QuickBooks, Great Plains, and some of the other accounting packages that are out there.
Yeah, and we've got a great development team even here at BMI. It could be something to look into if that's really key as well. All right, here's another question. Can you import only active items?
Well, it doesn't actually import. So what happens is you're taking a copy of your existing database and you're upgrading or converting that to an RMH database. So even if the item exists in the database in RMS, it's going to exist in the database for Retail Management Hero. It's not an overly difficult process to purge inactive items and items that you don't want to see inside of your database, but that would be something that would take place at a database level, not part of your standard conversion from RMS to RMH.
Excellent. Frank asked the questions, you are not recommending RMHero for multi-store operations right now. Is that correct?
Correct. For multi-store operations, if you're an existing RMS HQ customer, then there are some aspects of using RMH in an individual store that you could use. But as it sits right now, Retail Management Hero is a single store application. Retail Realm is working on a couple of different mechanisms to allow multiple stores to run the Retail Management Hero product and bring all of their data into a centralized database to look at. But depending upon the number of stores that you have, our initial conversation would be to look at either the ChargeLogic or the AX for Retail or one of the larger ERP applications that we have available. As Retail Realm and Retail Hero continue to work on the RMH product, we're expecting to have something by the end of the year that it would be a full HQ replacement for RMS, and at that point we will likely start to make that recommendation as well. But if it's something that you need to transition out of RMS immediately, then we would have to look at one of the other POS applications that is designed around a multiple store environment.
And Butch, I should also mention that you have spent time outlining a lot of this good information on our retail webpage as well. So if you go to our InterDyn BMI website and look under what we offer and then under industry solutions and look at retail, there's a lot of valuable information there that you can read about different capabilities and different solutions. And again, this is always changing as well. So this would be a good way to get educated, and then of course reach out to your account manager or Butch, and then we'll help you from that point. Here's another question. It says, talk about integration to physical devices. What do you do to find out about any changes needed there?
I'm not sure I completely understand by physical devices. If you're talking about peripherals, cash drawers, receipt printers, pull displays, second monitors, things like that, it uses the same technology to communicate that RMS did. So if you have a device that has OPOS drivers for it, it can, for the most part, be used with RMH, and I use that same caveat with RMS for the most part. Most of those devices that have OPOS drivers can be just used straight away. If you're talking about the devices, sort of like a handheld device to be able to run the POS application on, say, a tablet, it definitely excuse me, will work with a Windows 10 tablet. If you're talking about the handheld type devices for taking physical inventory and things like that, a lot of the devices have built-in software to be able to track the barcodes and then the quantities and things like that. So there really isn't an integration into many of those devices. But you'd definitely be able to create the file, and then there's the stock take to import it into RMS. I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Martin asked the questions, what if we have the headquarters set up but only have one store? Could it convert into RMH?
The one store could convert into RMH. If you only have one headquarters, my question would be, what are you doing with just the single headquarters? Is it due to an integration possibly with GP or with other third-party applications? The real caveat on using the headquarters is, as I described, with the splitting between accounts and customers inside of RMH, that split isn't known to the RMS product, so RMS HQ wouldn't know about that. So that's where one of the caveats in using Retail Management Hero in a RMS HQ environment is you can't really do the customer and account management that you could with RMS. And so if you're a single store with HQ, depending upon what you're using HQ for, you could definitely make the transition to RMS. We just need to look at that on sort of a case-by-case basis into why you're using HQ with a single store.
Yep, and Martin just says they used to have more stores at one time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're using just a single store, it might be easier to just do away with HQ altogether and work out of just that single store database.
Okay. Well, no other questions. Any words of advice or actionable items that you would want to tell our customers here?
Yeah, I definitely just want, and if you work with me at all on your RMS products, you'll know that I usually start and end every conversation with PCI security, PCI compliance, and becoming EMV and point-to-point encrypted with your customer cardholders data. That is the single biggest change in the retail space over the last 2 years, and that is the one area that has the potential to cost you, the merchant, a lot of money. One of the sort of scarier facts is 60% of all of the companies that experience a breach go out of business within a year, because a breach is an expensive proposition. And we have solutions that can work with any of the software that you're using, whether it's RMH or RMS or Navision with Charge Logic or AX or any of those. We have partners and we have applications and we have hardware that can mitigate, if not eliminate, those risks and potentially save you some money.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Butch. It's always fun listening to you and getting these new ideas. And the great thing is that there is a future product that can fit in very nicely for folks. So again, reach out direct to Butch and or your account manager here. If you don't know who to contact, just always email user experiences at InterDyn BMI, and we'd be glad to help you. Butch's email address is butch.smith@interdynbmi.com. Thank you so much. Thank you, Butch.